And a good morning to you, everyone, and welcome to Williams Arena for our second day of coverage here on PrepSpotlight.tv as we start in with the 1A tournament. And just a reminder before we get started, quarterfinal coverage of the Minnesota State boys basketball broadcasts are supported by Hazel and Betty Ford Foundation, treating addiction and transforming lives. And by Cub and your hometown Cub store, born and raised in Minnesota. Cub is the hometown team. And also by Tria Orthopedic and Comcast Xfinity. Well, I'm Charlie Beatty, and I'm pleased to be joined by a guy who knows a little bit about this tournament. Been here, 15 times, won it last year at this level. Tom Vicks of Rushford Peterson. Thanks for joining us, Tom. And we got 4 games today, and we start right at the top. Minneapolis North, the number 1 seed, and everybody's big favorite here in this field, facing off against the St. Clair Cyclones.
Well, thanks, Charlie. It's great to be here, and you can feel the excitement here in the crowd as these teams getting here. St. Clair for the first time, and the North veteran here, but looking to get back into that championship bracket.
It's been a long time since North was here, but you're right. They've been here now 20 appearances. Let's take a look at first the St. Clair Cyclones and how they got here. Beat Cleveland in their section final, winners of 13 of their last 14 games, and one big loss. That's a Maple River team that is in 2A, a local rival of St. Clair, just south of Mankato. But this is a team that's a veteran group, 21-7 on the year, 4 seniors in the starting lineup.
Yeah, those 4 seniors are going to run the show for them today. They've gotten some good help from the sophomores. Their bigs are young kids that are come along really well during the season. Talking to their coach, he's very happy with the progress of the sophomores. So they have an inside-out game. How they handle this pressure today will be important in their success.
And now swing it over to Minneapolis North and how they got here, and winners over Prairie Seeds Academy in their section final, 94-57. You see a big win there against 2A St. Croix Lutheran, the number 1 team in that field, and they picked up a big win against Dilworth Linden Felton last night. You saw that game here on PrepSpotlight.tv. They played a tough schedule. You see the losses to Wayzata, Hopkins, Champlin Park. That Hopkins game was an all-timer, 98-96, and 2 teams going right at each other. This is a team with a ton of talent.
More talent than any Class A team that's here as far as athleticism. They're fast, they create turnovers, they can jump, they transition better than any team in Class A. They're a handful. We played them earlier in the year, and they have a lot of athletes, and they keep bringing them. They're going to be a tough match for anybody.
And they can really score. 85 points per game. They scored 84 in their section corner. Got it up to 115 in the semis, and then, as I mentioned, 94 in that section final. So some keys to the game. First, we'll start with St. Clair. And we talked about Minneapolis North as being the big favorite here. Everybody else maybe a little wide open in the field, but St. Clair gets the tough task in the opening round.
Well, I think turnovers are going to be really critical for St. Clair. They, North averages forcing 22 turnovers a game against all that tough competition. St. Clair doesn't have the pressure on their defense to cause turnovers. The other thing, that transition. If the pace of the game gets in the 70s, 80s, that's going to be Minneapolis North kind of game.
And keep an eye on Mitchell Weber and Brandon Goebel, the 2 high scorers on this team. 35 points a game between the 2 of them for a team that only scores 65 overall. And for Minneapolis North, they just kind of want to keep things rolling here. They come in hot, as I mentioned, an ultra-talented team. And they've got Tyler Johnson, who a lot of people know more from football, but he's a pretty good basketball player as well.
Might be the best athlete in the class. Skywalker is going to see some dunks somewhere in this tournament. He just can't keep him off that rim. Obviously, with this football experience too, he's a very calm customer.
Yeah, Tyler is, of course, one of the big football recruits of the University of Minnesota, was the quarterback of the Polars team and took them to the Prep Bowl this year. Right now, we'd like to take it down to floor level. Teams are going to be introduced, and we'll send it down to the public address announcer and meet both the St. Clair Cyclones and the Polars of Minneapolis North.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please let me have your attention as we introduce the teams and starters for this state tournament quarterfinal game. First, I would like to introduce the reserves for the visitors on the scoreboard, the St. Clair Cyclones. Number 1, senior Mason Arndt. Number 3, sophomore Brandon Schultz. Number 5, senior Cole Heinbaugh. Junior number 10, Cody Flowers. Number 13, junior Carter Wakefield. Number 15, sophomore Dylan Shones. Number 21, sophomore Grant Nagel. Junior number 31, Ethan Anderegg. Number 41, Aiden Holland. Number 43, senior Michael Thompson. Number 45, junior Michael Anderson. Junior number 51, Tate Oftedal. And number 55, sophomore Alex Eilertson. And now here are the reserves for the Minneapolis North Polars. Number 4, junior Jaquan Sanders Smith. Number 5, junior Marquis Holloman. Number 11, ninth grader Nazir Alamin. Number 15, sophomore Taylor Johnson. Number 20, sophomore Marshawn Downey. Number 21, ninth grader Eli Campbell. And number 34, junior Jameer Jackson. And now here are the starting lineups for today's contest, introducing alternately. For the Cyclones at a forward, a 6'1" senior, number 35, Brandon Goebel. For the Polars at forward, a 6'6" senior, number 12, Jameel Jackson Jr. At the other forward for St. Clair, a 6' senior, number 23, Sam Schroon. For the Polars at forward, a 6'4" junior, number 35, Isaac Johnson. At center for St. Clair, a 6'5" sophomore, number 25, Mitchell Weber. For Minneapolis North at center, a 6'6" sophomore, number 32, Odell Wilson IV. At guard for St. Clair, a 5'10" senior, number 33, Paul Lang. At guard for the Polars, a 6'3" senior, number 13, Pat Dembley. And at the other guard for the Cyclones, a 6' senior, number 11, Brandon Freitag. For Minneapolis North at guard, a 6'2" senior, number 10, Tyler Johnson. Head coach of the Cyclones is Charles Freitag. Assistant coaches are Tyler Sander, Frank Ireland, and Logan Manska. Head coach of the Polars is Larry McKenzie. His assistant coaches are George Ellis and Trent Witt.
So there you go. You've met both teams. Charlie Freitag and his son Brandon here, of course, and then Larry McKenzie, former Holy Angels coach, now in his third year at Minneapolis North and a basketball Hall of Famer here in the state of Minnesota. Great success for him, over 300 wins in his career. But Charlie Freitag's done a great job with his St. Clair group. In 5 years, he's won 92 games of his own.
Very high percentage for Charlie at St. Clair. And, of course, Coach McKenzie's no stranger to the tournament. So, again, two guys that are really going to coach the heck out of him today.
And we'll take a pause for our national anthem. That was the St. Clair band with the national anthem, and we're ready to go here. So seemingly a pretty tall task for the Cyclones on paper, but the games aren't played on paper, and once you get to the state tournament, you maybe know more than anybody else. You got to go out there and win it.
And there's a lot of going to be some close games throughout the tournament. For St. Clair, they can't turn the ball over here early in this game, get some of the jitters out. The North, obviously, with their tough schedule, they're used to some of these bigger crowds. They're going to come out and try to put it on them right away.
This senior group, and Charlie Freitag very eager to point out the contributions of the senior group in building this team to their first state tournament appearance here in 2016. And we did mention in the pregame they lost to Maple River during the year, but Maple River not that far away from St. Clair, and the Maple River team is just down to our right. Lost yesterday in their game against Banham, but they stuck around to check out some of their Southern Minnesota brethren here in the opening round. And St. Clair wins the tap, and the first ovation of the day from the Cyclone fans who've made about the hour and a half, maybe a little longer trip, just south of Mankato is St. Clair, if you're wondering. And this is good noise in the building. This is such a great place to play. And right there, big pressure out high on Goebel.
And how they handle this pressure. The North defense is predicated on steals.
And there's Tyler Johnson from Demley right away. You said you might see some dunks, and he gets it out of the way early.
Well, the ball pressure is incredible by North, and they're going to have to settle down here a little bit. St. Clair.
And we've got a foul early, and that's going to go on Tyler Johnson. So the first bucket and the first foul of the game for Tyler. It was such an interesting thing to hear. Everybody kind of speculating where Tyler might play football in college. He's such a good athlete, can play anywhere. Charles Adams, his football coach, who's actually here with the basketball team, whenever anybody would ask him about it, said, "Are you kidding? He's a quarterback. He is a quarterback, and he is a good one." I hope he gets a shot to play there. Long shot there from Mitchell Weber. That one's off, and the rebound down for Isaac Johnson. 3 Johnsons on this team. Isaac and Tyler are not related, but Taylor Johnson, who comes off the bench, is Tyler's younger brother. And they have 2 Jacksons, just to confuse everybody even more, and they're not related.
Great rebound there on the other end by St. Clair. Coming up a little short on that shot, though.
Now Goebel with the miss. He's at 19 points per game, leads this St. Clair team. Weber at 16, and then Freitag at 12. Those are the 3 guys that do the bulk of the work. Nobody else above 4.5 points per game for the Cyclones.
That shot looked a little jittery. That's one of those you got to get out of the way in the first 3 minutes, and then you get playing basketball again.
Isaac Johnson swings it around, and the long one there from Jameel Jackson. That doesn't go, and the rebound for Goebel. He's a good rebounder as well at 6'2", even as a guard. And the long ranger, and another maybe a bit of a jittery shot. That one is from Grant Nagel. And Mitchell Weber is able to clean it up.
2-3 out there. Gets a steal off the top.
And Freitag comes up with it. So 2-2, not a bad start after maybe the early turnover here for St. Clair. Paul Lang with it, guarded by Tyler Johnson. And there is a big adjustment period to playing in the state tournament. You and I talked about it a little before the game. Got to get used to the building and everything else that surrounds it.
You get their eyes wide open, especially for a team that's the first time here. Once they get playing, they're fine. It's all that prep work, all the rallies they have at your hometown, all the buses and everything getting here. So these kids need to get in the flow. Once they get a little sweat going, they'll be fine.
2.5 minutes in here, and you do see the 2-3 zone from St. Clair. Trying to go around it is Dembley, and that's a good slice to the basket, but he can't finish.
Well, so far, St. Clair's done a very good job in the half-court defense. It's on this end, can they get quality shots? So far, they've settled for a lot of three-point baskets.
Looked like Lang was about to launch another long one. Weber does. Tyler Johnson clears and now wants to run. Dembley on the baseline, and there's a nice dump down for Odell Wilson.
And Wilson is a handful inside. He doesn't look like he's doing a lot, but he's really strong with his back to the basket. There he gets an easy deuce off a great feed.
Now Wilson at 6'7", and he's sturdy, we'll say that. Another long one this time from Freitag, and the rebound for Isaac Johnson. Johnson on the move, leaves it off for Tyler, but an offensive foul as he went right through Freitag.
That's one of the things, they are a little susceptible. They like to get up in the air on their passing. I'm not sure St. Clair wants to keep this kind of pace up, though. It's very one pass and a shot. That's going to take its toll in the long run against this talented North team.
They average about 30 rebounds per game, St. Clair, and Minneapolis North at 42. Now some of that is down to the fact that their opponents are missing a lot more. And Dembley with a reach. So one apiece on Johnson, Dembley, and Johnson.
But you're already seeing the North pressure backing off a little bit because of those two quick fouls. And that's going to be an advantage of St. Clair if they can get a couple more and get them to back off that pressure on the perimeter.
And here's Lang. Just a 2-point game here in the early going. First of 4 today to the entire bracket. The quarterfinals played here at Williams Arena on this Thursday. Almost forgot what day it was for a second. It's been a long week here covering all these games for Prep Spotlight, but we're glad we can bring them to you. And this should be a pretty wide open field.
Well, we saw some upsets yesterday. You know, the Caledonia team was a second seed coming in, getting beat on an early round game against a non-ranked team, so it happens.
And I talked to a lot of coaches about that yesterday, and especially those at the 1A level, that these teams are spread out so far across the state. They don't see each other a lot. It's got to be really hard to seed the field. And you do see some upsets, and we'll put the upsets in air quotes. There's Odell Wilson inside, and he's got 2 and the foul. First foul against St. Clair, 6'2" North.
His spin move is really good, especially over his right shoulder, where he's kind of left-handed there. And I watched it earlier in the year against us. He's a handful. Very strong young man.
Weber is called for the foul. Nagel and Brandon Schultz are going to come in for St. Clair. Nagel number 21, Schultz number 3.
And again, Nagel's only a sophomore. And bringing their bigs in are the young kids. And this is a big task for sophomore post players to handle Wilson inside.
5 early points for Odell. He averages a dozen per game. Everybody in the starting lineup for North is over 10 points. And they also bring in Jaquan Sanders off the bench. He's at 10.1.
Again, really settling for the perimeter jump shot here, and that's going to get him in trouble over the long run.
And right now dying by the 3. They haven't been able to hit one yet. Here's Isaac Johnson from way out, and that one's short. Good battle for the rebound, but won by Dembley.
Well, you don't want to get in a jumping match with North. They have outstanding athletes, and they really get off the floor.
You see how high up Tyler Johnson got on that jump shot. Following up is Jamil Jackson. And it's 9-2, and you don't want to lose touch early here if you're St. Clair. And a double dribble there on Brandon Schultz, and now they start to look a little nervy.
A little unforced error there, too. It really wasn't ball pressure, just being in the moment and feeling the pressure from earlier in the game already. Just got him a little nervous there. But again, turnovers. North is really good at forcing turnovers, 22 a game. That's not many teams in the whole tournament doing that.
North goes to the bench for the first time. They bring in Sanders. And they bring him in for Wilson, so going a little bit smaller. He's 6'1", Wilson 6'7". The rest of the starters for North all 6'3" or above, so I mentioned the jumping, but they have length also. From the elbow, and that time it's Jamil Jackson. He's got 4. And a timeout here taken by Charlie Freitag, and just wants to settle his group down a little bit, I would imagine.
Well, again, they're just not used to the speed and athleticism, and they're on the offensive end settling for so many threes, and when you're not hitting them, that's just easy leak outs and getting quick offense for North. So might have to change that strategy, get something inside here coming back.
This Minneapolis North team had 4 goals coming into the year. The city title, the Twin City title, their section title, and the state title. So far, they're 3 for 3. And now they'd like to go for that 4th one. And this is just an ultra-talented group. And it really speaks to the renaissance that Minneapolis North has gone through. A school that was almost shut down a couple of years ago. Of course, 20 years ago was much bigger. Now it's just a couple hundred students. They've had success 2 years in a row in football. Finally got to the Prep Bowl this year. Lost to Minneota. but now they're here in basketball. It's just quite the turnaround for a really proud community and part of Minneapolis that has so much history. Brandon Schultz facing the pressure in the backcourt, gets some help here from Goebel. Now across for Freitag, and up in the air, and a kick ball there on Pat Dembley.
Minneapolis North coming out and trapping after that timeout so that they can't run a set play coming out of the timeout. Good coaching by Coach McKenzie there, not allowing the St. Clair to run something special coming out of that timeout.
Skip pass for Freitag. Now first touch for Grant Nagel.
When I watch St. Clair, it looks like they're an outstanding passing team, but they have a little trouble getting there off the bounce, off the dribble. So, and North with their quickness can cover up all those passing lanes.
And look how far away from the basket they have to start setting up here. I mean, having to settle for 35-footers, and on the floor is Tyler Johnson, able to tap it to Dembley, and he finishes.
And in that possession, the ball was loose, and St. Clair player was actually closer, but because of the speed of North, they actually beat him to the ball.
Johnson spotting him about 10 yards. It's another, looked like a kick ball from Dembley, and it's a run out for Johnson, and he missed the dunk.
We got a little fancy that time. But I do believe it was a kick, Charlie, in that initially.
Yeah, the St. Clair players looked like they all stopped, and it definitely looked like it went off the foot. Here's a foul. And it's going to be either on Tyler Johnson or Isaac Johnson. Either way, it's the second. And it is going to be Tyler Johnson. So a pair of fouls and a missed dunk. Bad sequence for him.
Well, he wanted to put a little emphasis on that one. We got it cocked there pretty good with that one-hander. And if he would have went up with two like he hit earlier in the game, that would have been an easier dunk for him.
So he's replaced by his younger brother, Taylor, the sophomore. He comes in at 5.1 points per game off the bench. This is a team that goes about 8-9 deep. Minneapolis North, some guys don't get a ton. There's a move inside for Mitchell Weber. That's what you wanted them to do.
Well,
and there's Taylor right back the other way.
But the transition is so fast. I mean, they got the nice two and then gave it up right away, so no gain on that possession.
7.5 minutes in here, and it's 15-4 North. Things going their way here in the early going and playing their pace, like you've mentioned a couple times. Goebel trying to save it right into the hands of Taylor Johnson. Ahead for Isaac, and he puts it in with two hands.
They transition better than any Class A team in the tournament, and if they get in that up and down game, they're awfully tough.
Now we got a hand check here on Taylor Johnson. And a substitution as Wilson comes back in. He takes the place of Jamil Jackson.
Getting a nice rotation is North too, keeping their players fresh, and that allows them to get that pressure defense on.
Sam Schroon has come back in for St. Clair. We got the horn here as the ball came into play, so we'll start it again. Now here's Brandon Freitag, one of the 4 senior starters for the St. Clair team. Weber, and he just runs into a crowd, and then that's a tough pass. Nearly picked by Sanders. And now Sanders will get called for the reach. Well, he beat him to the spot, but he did look like he had the left hand in there as well.
Well, it's interesting. Now they're one more. They'll be in the bonus. That's opportunity for St. Clair to get some points without being guarded. Because right now the North is on them pretty tough on the perimeter.
Long one for Goebel, and that one was under pressure.
That's a very difficult shot.
Back comes Dembley. There's a lot of unsung guys on this North team because they do spread it around so much. And of course, Tyler Johnson gets a ton of attention, but guys like Dembley and Jamil Jackson and Isaac Johnson, these guys are pure scorers. You have 5 players between 12.1 and 15.5 points per game. That's sharing the basketball.
And very unselfish play, but also good scores that they have enough guys that can still make those shots. There's a deep one.
That one is short, but Taylor Johnson right there to pull it down. Dembley guarded by Goebel in the corner. And a hold, that's going to go on Lang. Just the second foul against the Cyclones.
Well, other than their half-court defense has been very good, it's just been the transition defense giving up layups in transition.
Dembly, good look for Wilson. He had it blocked by Goebel. Another try and can't get the roll, but he'll head to the line.
Very strong in there, followed his shot really well. They just keep coming at you. That's one of the things that when you play North, you're going to have to be ready to play the 36 minutes. There's no let off.
You mentioned the unselfish basketball. There was an example right there. Good pass from Taylor Johnson. Wilson struggles with the free throw line, only 53%. This team has a weakness. They're not necessarily a great free throw shooting team, but that doesn't really come into play for them too many times this year. And here's the pressure. Here's something they do fantastically well, but they do break it. Now Schroon for Weber. Trying to take the charge as Wilson. They're going to call him for the block.
It was a great call. Got there a little late. But a good effort by Wilson to try to set that. It's the only chance he had. But then now, from now on, everything will be bonus and getting closer to that two-shot play. Great job. A great chance for St. Clair to get back in on the free throw line. That's really what they need to do right now is attack that pressure.
Weber's a 50% free throw shooter. He gets to the line a bunch. That was free throw number 125 on the year.
Well, if you look at his arms, he's a strong young man. That kid is put together. He can handle the athleticism with his strength.
And he has all 6 of St. Clair's points here in the early going. Yeah, he's 6'5", 220, and he looks every bit of that. Here's Jaquan Sanders, and that one out on the baseline. Now Lang, he attacks and has it swatted off this stanchion by Odell Wilson.
With their athleticism, even when you think you're by, someone's always there to give a little help and change your shot.
Long inbounds pass for Freitag, and you see there's no let off. There's Dembly right there, making sure there's nothing easy. Lang from way out. And they finally got one to go down, and that one was well beyond what would have been an NBA line if there was one here. Dembly trying to match it, and does.
It's a huge shot for North because you can feel the St. Clair getting a little energy, their crowd getting going, and on defense they were moving pretty well. And then they kind of shut things down with that three-pointer.
Five points now for Dembly. Here's Weber, and they're starting to hit some shots, the Cyclones, and that's, like you said, getting the nerves settled down. Just go play now. Got to find some stops, though, as Wilson lays it in.
I think if you're St. Clair, you've got to give up the three ball and live with that because you can't give them both. You got to take away something. You got to take away the inside game. If they hit some shots, they hit some shots. You're going to have to live with it.
Of course, that's exactly what the 2-3 zone is designed to do. And that time they just went right through the middle of it. Here's Goebel. He's had trouble finding any space at all. Loses it here, and Wilson able to get the transition started. Here's Sanders to the rim and around Mitchell Weber.
Again, they transition so fast. They just run by people, the whole team, and it's incredible to watch.
14-point lead already at the 6:47 mark here of the first half, so moving by pretty quickly. Weber from outside, and that one was short. And again, on those pull-up shots, especially from deep, just such a hard shot to even get to the rim.
And plus, the spread out is there. They really don't have people in offensive rebounding position, which is really up and giving North the advantage. North's playing man-to-man and very extended man-to-man. The only luck St. Clair's going to have is they got to go by them with the dribble.
St. Clair enters the tournament, of course, unseeded. They only played 2 teams that made the state tournament this year. Mentioned the Maple River loss. They also played St. Croix Lutheran. As they're hitting from the outside is Taylor Johnson. And another timeout is going to be called here by Charlie Freitag.
Well, so far it's been a very good defensive game for North. Only 11 points so far by St. Clair. That's really the difference right now. They're just having trouble scoring points.
And just want to remind you that the quarterfinal coverage of the Minnesota State boys basketball broadcasts are supported by Hazelton Betty Ford Foundation, treating addiction and transforming lives. By Cub and your hometown Cub store. Born and raised in Minnesota, Cub is the hometown team. By Trio Orthopedic, and also by Comcast Xfinity. He had a good look there at the St. Clair huddle. St. Croix Lutheran on the mind as I went through that, but no, the Cyclones there. St. Croix Lutheran a winner yesterday in the 2A field. Top half of that bracket for 2A, Banham and St. Croix Lutheran went according to form. The bottom half that was played here, completely blown up. So a couple of upsets there made for some interesting games today. I was working with Rob Mestis, the head coach of Roosevelt, yesterday for the St. Croix Lutheran and the Banham games, and we thought the matchup of those two teams in this semifinal round would be pretty exciting. Those are two up-tempo groups.
Yep, and Banham been there quite a few times, so they'll know what they're doing. St. Croix Lutheran loaded with talent. I saw them play down in Wisconsin earlier in the year in a tournament game, and very, very talented bunch.
Coming out of the timeout, and Weber with the travel, so obviously coming out of a timeout, and any coach wants to get something out of it, and there's the empty possession for the Cyclones. And there's just a lot of talent at all four classes left in this tournament. It's going to be fun to watch.
Looks like they're matching up a little bit now. St. Clair, out of that, they were 2-3 now. Looks like they're going to do a little man-to-man, try to switch things up.
Tyler Johnson back in the game with the 2 fouls, and he'll go to the line himself. And they're going to call that one on the floor, I guess. It's on Goebel. That'll be his second. For a team that only has 4. Sanders, stop and go, and couldn't get the roll. And the loose ball down to Lang. He wants to run. He'll pull up from the exact same spot, and that one too strong, and really settling for that shot, it seemed like. And a foul on Freitag coming back the other way.
That was an incredible stop and go on the guard for North, and then again, that quick shot. I know he got the shot off, but I don't think it was a well-advised shot. No rebounders really there. He wasn't like he had been making a lot of shots, and that goes back to that pace of the game again.
Now they want to go over the top, and what a finish by Tyler Johnson. Had to make a big adjustment in the air.
Yeah, not a great pass, but a great finish.
Goebel with the catch and shoot. Good rebound by Weber. Just ripped it away from Odell Wilson. Mention how strong he is, and showed it right there. Wilson back the other way, has Freitag hanging all over him, and that'll be the second on Brandon.
When they go man-to-man, they're going to give up some penetration all of a sudden. But they had to do something different. Things weren't working out of the 2-3 zone. Coach made a change, but North really can penetrate the ball off the dribble.
Dembley and Isaac Johnson back into the game. Jaquan Sanders and Taylor Johnson are the ones that head out. Good chance you're going to see 2 Johnsons on the floor almost at all times for North. This is Isaac, and that's a good finish. Again, he's not related to the other 2. We had a great chat with his dad, who's up here doing the video work for North before the game. Ken Johnson.
And talking about these athletes and all the sports they play, Charlie, not just basketball, football. We didn't know ourselves about how good they all play baseball too.
Big success in football, and of course with the enrollment so small, it's likely you're going to see a lot of the same faces on these teams, and that's the case with North. Freitag going to the line. Nice job following his own miss there. 19-point lead here for North.
We talked about the free throw line being their friend, but you also got to convert those free throws, not just shoot them.
Freitag, a 70% shooter, hits the second one. That's his first point of the game for a guy who averages a dozen. Dembley in the corner. Isaac Johnson kept that one alive, and now Tyler. And Weber is fouled as he comes down. Looks like they're going to get Isaac Johnson on that one. That'd be his second if it does indeed go on number 35. And it will.
We're trying to get some free points because of the foul situation. And they got to convert these free throws, take advantage of the fact that North has been a little aggressive defensively. It's worked for them. They've only allowed 14 points so far.
It's actually the third foul on Isaac Johnson. So he has to go to the bench here with 4:13 left in the first half, but Weber can't convert on the 1-and-1. That's the final 1-and-1 situation for St. Clair. North not even yet in the bonus. Up top, Tyler Johnson and the foul. And you will see that bucket all weekend long on highlight reels.
A lot of back screening going on. That was a great pass that time. Tyler didn't have to adjust, but he did get undercut, and he still finished the shot. Like I said, I've seen that before. He's very athletic. He doesn't take very long to get up off the floor.
An unbelievable play for an unbelievable athlete. Maybe the best in the entire tournament, regardless of class.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone as far as vertical jump and speed that is better than Tyler.
And short on the free throw. And they get the rebound anyways. Jaquan Sanders comes out with it off the tap back. And a timeout called here by Larry McKenzie. Yeah, maybe you get some argument on the best pure basketball player. I think that would probably go to Gary Trent of Apple Valley, but boy, can he really do a lot of things out there, Tyler, and on the football field as well. So 3:56 to go here in this first half and a 20-point Minneapolis North lead. We mentioned this was a tall task for whoever was assigned to the Polars. It happened to be St. Clair, and so far everything's going North's way.
Well, what's impressive about the last play there, I think, is they ran that without it wasn't a timeout. It was not a special play. They called it on the fly, and they ran that back screen to perfection with no prep work. So they've worked on it before. And it's what a momentum driver for them defensively. Now they'll ratchet it up, put St. Clair down a little bit, gets their crowd out of the game. So big play on that last one. Now going to a 1-3-1.
They're going to try it again. This time the pass left a little short.
Coach Freitag trying something to stem the flow here, but it's very difficult.
This is Brandon Schultz into the game. Came in when Goebel picked up his third foul. Weber, that's a tough shot, and he got it to go. Boy, he's acquitted himself pretty well here, Mitchell Weber.
He's kept him in the game. Really the bright spot for St. Clair.
Dembley at the other end. Weber's going to get the foul, and Dembley hit the floor hard. That'll be the second on Weber.
Well, Weber gets his money's worth when he gets a foul. He's not going to back down there. He's a very strong young man, and that was a pretty violent collision there at the rim.
Two guys who met right at the top of the jump. Somebody usually goes down hard in those situations. Dembley pops right back up and hits the free throw.
Weber, to me, does not look like a sophomore.
Right.
You know, he's built more like a senior with that body build and that strength.
Yeah, he's the only starter on this team that'll be back next year, but not a bad player to build a team around.
Absolutely.
And Schultz picked up the dribble in a bad spot. Freitag comes to bail him out and then throws one right at Weber's face, and he wasn't ready for it.
Well, that's that constant pressure. You know, you might not get it every time, but you have one little lapse in judgment, or one little lapse in your excitement level, and North takes advantage of it.
And just speeds a team up. You can tell St. Clair playing faster than they want to. Sanders on the baseline, found some space. Can't hit the shot. Freitag has the rebound, and right there, Jamil Jackson diving for the ball.
Well, you know, St. Clair has not had a run out, has not had an easy opportunity in the full floor, where North has had probably 10 points in transition. So you take away those 10 points, and now it's reasonable. But that's what North can do to you. They're experienced on both ends.
And Weber looking for Lang, cutting to the basket and overshot him.
Nice double down by North that time.
You don't want the wheels to come off here in the first half, and it's pretty close to that here if you're St. Clair. Looks like they're going to come out at a 1-3-1 this time down the floor.
And the 1-3-1 is really susceptible to a dunk on that diagonal pass, because the wing's got to cover the top and the bottom. There it is right there. They went to it. Tried for the dunk again.
That time it was Jamil Jackson at the top.
One of the reasons you don't see the 1-3-1 in college or pros, because of that athletic, they all just throw the diagonal and dunk it. And North has got those kind of athletes.
Now, the only time you really ever see it work to perfection is when it gets extended all the way out to that half-court line. I remember John Beeline, I don't know if he did it at Michigan much, but when he coached West Virginia,
yeah,
they terrified teams with that.
Got to have length, and you got to be able to really move. But it is a devastating defense, but you are susceptible to that lob.
And the situation here with Weber, I think he might have some blood on him. He has to get off the floor. So they're going to bring in Grant Nagel. Right now, Brandon Freitag, son of the coach, is headed to the free throw line. His dad, Charlie, played on the last team that actually even made a section final for St. Clair. That was back in 1997. And was at one point the school's all-time leading scorer. That record has since been broken. Now watching his son play one step beyond even where he got. And hits the first free throw. Now 2 for 3 from the line.
Well, in these small towns, you seem like you have a lot of tradition, family traditions that go on like that.
Yeah, we had Banham on yesterday, and of course, they're known for basketball families. They have 2 more right now. They had a set of brothers and a set of cousins. They played against a Maple River team that had 2 Sorey brothers and also a distant cousin named Sorey. So you get into the state tournament as a broadcaster and you're ready to just try to use a lot of first names because you're going to need them. Here's Freitag. Sanders nearly jumped over him. 1:15 to go here in the first half. 17-point North lead. And St. Clair again operating about 30 feet away from the basket almost exclusively. They're going to get a foul here on Taylor Johnson.
Well, good job that time with St. Clair of handling the pressure and forcing the foul, stepping through that double team. And again, that's the best way to get them off you, is to be aggressive and get to the foul line. But again, you got to hit the free throws.
Lang, a 61% shooter on the year from the line. Can't get the roll. And 0 for 2, and the rebound for Tyler Johnson. Just look how quickly they get up the floor even after that. Johnson just over everybody and hits it. He's very good with that mid-range jumper. Everybody wants to talk about the dunks, but he has hit a bunch of those this year as well. Lang for Freitag, having to shoot over Jamil Jackson. Good rebound there by Taylor Johnson. And the final 35 seconds, and North not going to wait. for that final shot. And Sanders, who lost it a moment ago, wins it right back and misses the layup. They missed a couple of short ones here. It looked like that time he was expecting some contact that never got there.
He's looking a little tired too. I think he was a little after a couple of those flurries.
And Dembley with the baseball pass into nearly the first row, hit a garbage can. 7.2 seconds here and a ragged finish to the first half.
Yeah, got a little sloppy here at the end. Little fatigue. You can see the hands on their hips of the players from North. So I think they got a little fatigued in that pace of the game that last minute and a half.
I'm gonna bring the inbounds pass back to the other side of the court because no one touched that. Or are they?
No, the ball still should be out where it went out of bounds.
And I think that's what this discussion is about.
No, it would be where, unless he was throwing the ball from out of bounds, then it would be back there. But since he was on the court of play, it's going to be where the ball went out of bounds.
Mitchell Weber back in the game, by the way. He has a new jersey. Must have had blood on the old one. Now he's wearing 53, so that's the extra jersey that St. Clair brought with him. He takes the inbounds pass, hands it off to Lang, who's got all kinds of time, and then traveled. I think he thought he only had 2 seconds to shoot. He had 5.
7 seconds is a ton of time to get it up the court. You can dribble the length of the court in under 4.
North had Marshawn Downey in the game for just a second there. Sophomore who doesn't play a whole lot, number 20. And he goes right back out. Here's Dembley, and he's wrapped up by Lang, making sure he doesn't get to the rim.
I'm not sure that's a great foul, though. You know, with that much time left, pack it in, take the charge maybe. You just kind of wrapped him up there, and that's going to give 1 and 1, I guess, here.
It's a bit of a frustration foul. It looked like there was some in there, and his coach wasn't too happy about it. Jameer Jackson has come into the game, number 34 for North. Took the place of Isaac Johnson, who had 3 fouls. Now Dembley at the line. That makes it a 20-point lead. And that should be the end of the first half. Freitag will just hold it. So 21-point advantage for North in the first half, and they were very impressive.
Yeah, they did everything right. They defended, only allowing 18 points at half. That's going to be difficult for anyone to do well when you only have 18. That's a 36-point game. And also, they defended, but they also got the ball inside. They caused a lot of trouble. They had some exciting dunk plays, which kept the crowd in it. They're a handful.
Well, we will be back here in just a moment on PrepSpotlight.tv. You're watching the boys basketball quarterfinals. 39-18 Minneapolis North, the top seed in Class 1A, leading the St. Clair Cyclones at the half. Back in just a moment. And welcome back to Williams Arena. Halftime here between North and St. Clair. Charlie Beatty, Tom Vicks with you. And so far so good for the Polars. And while we wait for these two teams to come back out, we can take a look at some of the other games coming up. The next one, Browerville, Eagle Valley, and Red Lake. That's your 4-5 matchup. And, I mean, two teams that aren't that far from each other in the Class A. We talked about the distance between these two, but they're just separated by a little stretch of Highway 71 up there near Brainerd. So these two teams coming in, what are your thoughts?
Well, Red Lake was here last year and really gave Maranatha Christian all they wanted in that first round and got knocked out early. So they've got some tournament experience. They know what it takes to play in this game coming up here in the first round. So I don't think they'll be shocked. Browerville has an outstanding point guard, and he will really impress us today with his quickness. And so it's going to be, can the Browerville point guard dominate a very balanced Red Lake team? Both teams like to get up and down. It's going to be a fun show, I think, in that second game here.
Yeah, Bryce Ersfeld is the point guard, 27.5 points per game on the year. You don't see a whole lot of players at the high school level rack that up. You talk about some of the athletes the Minneapolis North has, nobody over 15, but he's a true scorer. So it should be an interesting matchup. And then later on today, our 3 o'clock game, one of the unseeded teams, Mountain Iron Buell, the Rangers, and they will take on Central Minnesota Christian, another very talented team, and they're the 2 seed.
Central Minnesota Christian we beat them last year in the semifinal game, and they were really good. They're probably maybe the best half-court team in the tournament. They struggle a little bit in the full court if you under pressure, and so it's going to be, can Mountain Iron Buell get some full court pressure on them? But Central Minnesota is really good in the half. I don't know a lot about Mountain Iron Buell. We played them a few years ago. Very well coached. They do a great job, and their community really gets behind them. So it'll be a great third game too. I think Central Minnesota's got a little advantage because they were here last year.
Yeah, Mountain Iron Buell, another team with a father-son combination. Luke Winans the head coach. His son and leading scorer, senior Archie, will lead the way for the Rangers. Last game of the night, Lake Park Audubon and Goodhue. Now we finally get that Northwest Minnesota versus Southeast Minnesota matchup that you want to see in the Class A field.
And that's exactly right. 2 teams that know nothing about each other. I'm very familiar with the Southeast team, Goodhue. Their head coach is a former player of mine, played in a 2006 state championship team, has done a great job at Goodhue. He's a really good teacher. And another assistant there is a former player, also played the state tournament. Lake Audubon has a 6'9" player that's going to cause some issues for Goodhue. Goodhue is not a real large team. You know, they're not big, tall kids. Very tough, though. They're also in the state tournament in football.
And, of course, 2 young head coaches there. You talked about Matt Halverson, a guy you know very well for Goodhue. Kyle Haberman, also just a couple years in, another young guy at Lake Park Audubon. So that should be an interesting one. Let's take a look at some of the stats here for the first half. And the thing that jumps out, the shooting percentages and also the shots taken. North 16 out of 33, St. Clair 6 of 21 from the field.
Yeah, that's just a really stands out. But, you know, the shots were tough for St. Clair. They were a lot of threes, and they were contested threes. And those are always tough when for anybody if you're taking that shot. If they're going in, great. But when they're not, you see the deficit rise pretty quickly. And I think you're going to see turnovers here, also a big key. 12 turnovers for St. Clair, only 5 for North.
And the points off those turnovers, a dozen for Minneapolis North, only 2 for St. Clair. And also in the paint, Minneapolis North dominating 26-6 in the paint and 10-0 on the fast break, a point you brought up just a moment ago. But yeah, really just kind of a comprehensive first half for this Minneapolis North Polars team. And I think, you know, with all due respect to the folks from St. Clair, and obviously we're not taking sides on any of these games, but I think a lot of people who watch this tournament kind of expected a game like this because this is such a talented team.
Well, it's tough. You have to play the perfect game almost. You'd have to limit your turnovers. You know, if they're St. Clair, they would have to have maybe a half a dozen turnovers to compete in that first half. And then they'd have to do a really good job on the boards too. And maybe not limit the number of shots by North. Maybe hold the ball a little bit, slow down, because there's so many good athletes, and when the faster the pace of the game, it's all going to be North's advantage.
And look at the wins that North has against state tournament teams this year. St. Croix Lutheran's a 2A team, Fridley a 3A team. They dominated Fridley. Central Minnesota Christian, the only 1A team in the field they played, won that game 79-49. Their only loss to a tournament team was 98-96 against Hopkins, a team that a lot of people think, especially if they get past Apple Valley tonight, which is, of course, not said and done, that could win this whole thing and has, of course, one of the best players in the state in Amir Coffey on its roster.
Yeah, it's a loaded, they've had a great schedule. It's really prepared them for their tournament run. Of course, and if you look at their shirts that they're wearing, it's unfinished business. Last year, North got beat in the section final by Maranatha Christian, who they had beaten by 30 earlier in the year, came back and got beat in the section final. So they're a little hungry. They got a little chip on their shoulder.
So just about a minute to play before the second half starts here. Leading scorers for both teams. Take a look, it's 8 across the board for North. They have 8 from Tyler Johnson, 8 from Pat Dembley, and 8 from Odell Wilson. 12 of the 18 points for St. Clair from Mitchell Weber. Paul Lang's the only other guy that's hit a field goal, and Brandon Freitag with 3 points, but all from the free throw line. So not necessarily getting the offensive production they expected. And of course, their guy who scores 19 points a game, Brandon Goebel, has 3 fouls, has not scored. He is 0 for 3 from the field.
Well, of course, North doing a great job realizing who the top player is and putting their best defender on them. And again, balance. You talked about it, Charlie, earlier. This North team is very well balanced. When we looked at their stats for the year, ditto right on the stat sheet today, 8 points for 3 guys.
Yeah, 7 guys already on the board. The only 2 that came in the game and didn't play, Marshawn Downey and Jameer Jackson, they probably played about a combined 16 seconds there in the last minute of the half. So everybody getting in on the act for the Polars, who lead 39-18, and we're ready to start our second half of play here from Williams Arena. As soon as they get the clock right, it reads 18:88 at the moment. Somebody just held down the 8 key.
Someone was busy at halftime.
So we'll be playing a 19-minute and 28-second second half here. There we go, 18 minutes. North starts with the ball. Here's Pat Demley. And back to the 2-3 zone for St. Clair to start the second half. Isaac Johnson trying to go over it. Tyler Johnson flying through the screen. Lang grabs the rebound. And Lang ran into the teeth of the defense, and that's going to lead to a run out for Tyler Johnson. And this time the 2 hands played it safe. Didn't want to miss another one.
You don't get more points for style, for difficulty, Patrick. He just went up and did it solid, but he makes it look so easy.
Here's Goebel trying to get off the mark, and Demley the rebound, and Goebel just picked up foul number 4, and very frustrated. I would imagine that would have been the big task for Charlie Freitag in that halftime speech, just trying to keep the spirits up.
It is difficult, but you work on maybe winning the first 2 minutes or shorten the length up, instead of making it try to win the whole game. Try to win 2 minutes and get some momentum, but that dunk kind of took the wind out right away.
And Goebel hanging his head as he goes to the bench, a senior. And of course, his final game, if they don't come up with a miracle comeback here, is there's Demley with a steal, and we've got a foul on the floor, and that's going to be on Brandon Schultz, his first. Doesn't want to see his final game. Just to finish that thought on Goebel from the bench, even if it is a great view from the bench here at Williams Arena on that raised floor.
Well, even after missed shots, North can still pressure.
Johnson in and out, and we've got a foul, and that's going to go against St. Clair again. They might be getting Schultz again. He's the guy who came in for Goebel. And 2 quick ones there for Brandon Schultz. 55 seconds gone here in the second half. And they go right up over the top, and this time Jamil Jackson couldn't finish it. Now Lang on the run out. Tyler Johnson definitely put him off on that shot, forced him into a reverse. Here's Demley, another deep one. That one missed everything. Saved though, and Isaac Johnson got it to Jackson, and he puts it in.
Well, the athleticism is really showing up right here. Dunks, pressure, intimidating on the block, shot on the layup.
And there's Demley diving down to steal a pass. The defender never saw him there. Now Wilson up against the crowd, 3rd bite at it, and he finally gets it in.
Well, the foul trouble is definitely making a difference in St. Clair's. They're not playing nearly as aggressive inside because of the foul trouble.
27-point lead here, and barely, not even 2 minutes gone here in the second half. Everything going North's way. A 6-0 run to start the half.
Well, their athleticism is really wearing on St. Clair. The speed, the transitions have been so fast, and you can see the hands getting on the hips as they get tired from running. One of the bad things about going down at halftime is you do get tight. You got to get regenerated with your energy. North has a lot of cheerleaders.
They do. That's the rest of the school right there. Remember, these schools aren't all that big.
Right.
You got to bring everybody. The fan support certainly is there for both of these teams. They've really filled up this place, and it doesn't take a lot to make Williams Arena loud. There's nobody in the upper decks, of course, except for us. But everybody down in the lower bowl making a ton of noise, and it's fun to see.
North going to a 1-3-1 pressure defense there, which is going to be even more difficult for St. Clair.
Isaac Johnson just picked up his 4th foul, so he'll have to go to the bench. They'll get Sanders back in.
Both teams getting a little foul trouble here, which will affect the play, I think, of the second half. It's actually a 1-2-2.
And there's Tyler Johnson just at the front of it. Misses the short one. Good save, though, by Dembley. And a foul called as Sanders was trying to tap that up for Johnson to finish. And the foul is on Weber, and now they have to identify him as number 53. 25 jerseys in the laundry. That's his 3rd. Quick look there for Jamil Jackson right off the inbound.
And when they're hitting that, they are really virtually unstoppable. Kind of a nightmare having Johnson, Tyler on the top of that 1-2-2.
Be careful on the timeline there. Took a long time to get it across. Schultz has to save it and throws it right into the arms of Sanders, and Tyler Johnson, that time with the one-hander.
Well, is that his 4th dunk, Charlie?
It's his 4th attempt. No, it might be 4 completed. And now here comes Sanders. He will lay it in, and very close. That's the 2nd time he's gone for the scoop and nearly had it roll off the front of the rim.
Again, those transition baskets happen so fast.
On the baseline, that's Sam Schroon with his first field goal attempt of the game. Still nothing on the board here for St. Clair in the second half. And North getting everything to go their way, and that one nearly went down for Jamil Jackson.
It was a great pass by Wilson from the post to Cutter, and he's only a sophomore. He's got great vision, great soft hands in that post at 6'7".
Schultz with his 3rd foul, all here in the second half. And Jackson to the line.
Number 21,
Nagel coming back into the game. Also, number 45, Michael Anderson, a 5'11 junior, coming in for the first time here for St. Clair as they go a little deeper into their bench.
Well, it's important too as a coach. At some point you got to say it's an experience. Being here is an experience. Let all the kids get experience. Let every kid say they played against Tyler Johnson. That's something you can tell, the rest of your life.
Goebel also back into the game, even with the 4 fouls. Doesn't really matter at this point. Now here's Jackson. And he goes right through the teeth of the defense. 56-18. And they're coming back the other way. Here comes Dembley. Off the backboard for Tyler Johnson. Oh, showtime at 58-18. And Johnson with a steal, and it's a bad miss with the left hand, but it's getting almost impossible just to get the ball at the floor here for St. Clair.
Well, the other thing for Coach McKenzie, he's got to realize this game is done, or getting close to being done. And at some point, he'll remove Tyler because you got to play tomorrow. You got to play Saturday. And, you hate to have a kid get hurt or, just on when the game is getting out of touch.
We may have reached that point. He comes out, and his younger brother Taylor in. Goebel for 3. He'd just like to get on the scoreboard here. Diving on the floor is Brandon Freitag. Odell Wilson back the other way. And they have put up a 21-0 run to start the second half on what was already a 21-point lead. At what point do you stop the pressure as well? Here's Dembley. Inside for Jamil Jackson, and Goebel just fouled out of the game, unfortunately.
I was kind of hoping that Goebel would get a few points this half. He's a senior, You know, he's been their leading scorer all year, and you hate to have that be your last memory, you know, just not playing very well. But he's had a great career there for St. Clair.
You might be able to hear some of the ovation. Everybody standing over on that side. One of the guys who's helped build this team to this moment, and he fouls out here and pretty frustrated about the entire situation.
Well, you talked about the success they've had the last 5 years in that program. 2 of the last 3 years conference champions. You know, 75% winning rate over there. Kind of got that program really in high gear over there. So that's a real testament to Brandon Goebel.
Tyler Johnson's come back in. Odell Wilson goes to the bench. Remember, North doesn't have a ton of players that don't play anyway. They only have
Yes.
3 guys that aren't listed as that first off the bench. You get a spotting chart for every team when you do the state tournament, and the coaches put it together. They only have 12 guys on the roster to begin with, so they can't just put in the end of the bench. They don't have an end of the bench. 63-18.
This 1-2-2 half court has really given them trouble.
They can't get through it at all, and there's Jaquan Sanders with the lay-in. And you don't see this very often in basketball where a team is just thoroughly dominated. And a foul here. That'll go on Jamil Jackson, it looks like.
Personal foul charge to Jaquan Sanders Smith, the second team foul.
Actually, we give it to Jaquan Sanders. Full name Jaquan Sanders Smith, but his coach wrote him down as Jaquan Sanders, which is why that's what we've been going with here today. Skip pass here, and just getting out to block the shot as Tyler Johnson gets it for Dembley and ahead for Sanders. Just an unbelievable play by Tyler Johnson, who's 10 feet away when the shot was being taken by Anderson. Not only did he block it, but he kept it in bounds. And Jackson was standing on the line. I think St. Clair would probably take the save there. It went right to Anderson.
They need to break this over for the second half here. Haven't scored yet. Need to get on the board here.
This is Nagel. Back out for Schroon, and down low to Nagel, and he will get them on the board. And Grant Nagel with his first bucket. And that's the first points of the second half. Nearly 6 minutes scoreless for St. Clair to start things off.
Well, that pressure of North just wears on you and wears on you, and finally they broke it.
An unforced error there on Pat Dembley, a double dribble. And again, Weber back in the game, also Schultz.
Weber, we should be able to find him with those orange socks and green shoes.
That's the only way I was able to identify him after he switched jerseys.
Right.
I looked at the roster for a second. There was no 53. Which he did have to go in and, like we said, must have had some blood on the original jersey. Had to go to the spare.
Very good looking young sophomore though. I think he's going to help that program continue with their success.
Jackson and Dembley back to the bench. Wilson back in. Isaac Johnson back in. He's playing with 4 fouls, which is a pretty moot point at this point of the game. Freitag, and there's a steal by Isaac Johnson. He'll go all the way himself and finish. It's just an impressive array of buckets here for Minneapolis North in the second half.
Well, I think it's interesting. Most teams, you know, will run a 1-point guard or 2-point guards. It doesn't seem like it matters who gets the ball, other than Odell Wilson. They just bring it. And very difficult to stop that break when all 4 guys can bring the ball at a very high speed.
A 50-point advantage here, so we, of course, will hit running time in a minute and a half. Once you get to that 10-minute mark in the second half of a high school basketball game and the advantage is 30 or more. Here's Weber cutting into the lead a little bit. His first bucket of the second half. He has 15 of the team's 23 points. Sanders right back the other way. Well, we, and maybe most, expected a Minneapolis North victory. I don't know if anybody expected anything like this. Here's Freitag handing it off to Anderson. He can't finish it. And Schroon with the follow, and the hold was before the shot.
What's interesting with North, too, is in their 1-2-2, Tyler Johnson has played the point, he's played the back line, he's played the middle line. He's such a good athlete, they can put him anywhere, and he's effective. So very versatile cast.
This is a tough spot for both coaches, obviously, with the score so out of hand as to when you stop with the pressure like this. Because you want to keep running the way you're going to play the rest of the tournament.
Well, I think it's a little harder on Coach Freitag than it is on Coach McKenzie.
Yeah, well,
Coach McKenzie with a big lead now. The biggest thing, I'd be a little bit skeptical is, again, because it's a long tournament, you'd hate to see a rolled ankle or, jammed finger or something right now when there's no sense to it. It looks like they're slowing the pace here a little bit.
Isaac Johnson with the deep one. Weber with the rebound. He's going to push the pace himself, trying to get something in transition. Freitag for three. And here comes North, 4-on-1. And up for Tyler Johnson, and he couldn't finish that one. Now Schroon back the other way. Down low for Anderson, blocked by Wilson, and he'll start the break.
See, I said
Yep, he wants to prove you wrong.
Well, he didn't do it quite as nimbly.
I don't know if he did prove you wrong. Isaac Johnson with the finish anyway.
But
Odell carried the mail most of the way.
It's from this end to that end so fast with all their guys.
Weber, oh boy, he gets up there pretty impressively, doesn't he? We talked about the athleticism of Tyler Johnson so much, but Weber, he belongs on any team anywhere. Foul at the other end.
I'm guessing Weber's an awesome football player too. He just looks like he's built for it.
And not started the running time here. 9:12 remaining.
Under 9.
Is it under 9? Okay. Then everybody at Target Center yesterday was wrong. Consensus was 10, but now we see the bench emptying out a little bit for both teams. Into the game for North, Eli Campbell, a 5'7" freshman. Also Marquise Holloman, the 6'4" junior. Nasir El Amin also into the game for the first time, a guy who plays a little bit more than most, but he is the nephew of Khalid, of course the cousin of Ishmael, who's playing tonight in that Hopkins game. Pretty recognizable name around North as well, maybe probably the most. And this is Campbell, and he is fouled.
A little bit of frustration there after the steal. Kind of grabbed the player to prevent the fast break. Could have been called intentional, but I don't think it was malicious, trying to be mean. Just kind of tired of watching the back end of the North players go up the floor so fast.
There was a moment away from the ball there where you can see Isaac Johnson and Mitchell Weber talking it over to make sure that the players don't let this thing get out of hand either.
Yeah.
That frustration seeps in, and that's the other thing about injuries. When you're down by big margins, you foul a little harder. It's human nature because there's frustration in it.
Yep. Well, this is a great chance for all these kids, though, to get a chance to play on Williams Arena floor, which is a thrill in itself for a high school kid to be in this kind of arena and play in this kind of game. So it's a great opportunity for both coaches to let all these young guys.
There's Schroon in the corner. He's fouled by Downey. Tate Oftedal, number 51, has also come into the game for St. Clair. And they're about to bring in Cole Heinbaugh, a seldom used senior. So he'll get some time here in this last game. And now we get a timeout with 8:38 remaining in the game. And a reminder that our quarterfinal coverage of the Minnesota State boys basketball broadcasts are supported by Hazel and Betty Ford Foundation, treating addiction and transforming lives. By Cub and your hometown Cub store, born and raised in Minnesota, Cub is the hometown team. By Trio Orthopedic, and also by Comcast Xfinity. First of 4 here from Williams Arena today. Charlie Beatty, Tom Hicks will be here for all 4. I wasn't expecting that. I don't think you were either, to be here for all 4, but Torrey Holt, who was going to do the first couple games here, not only did he just have his first child, son named Tyler, on Tuesday, but Torrey's also pretty sick, so he has to stay home, and he can't even really hold the little guy because he's sick himself. So,
well,
he sent me a message last night, and I said, sure, I'll come out for all 4. Can't watch enough basketball.
That's right. What a great venue to watch it in. A lot of the North players are out here now. Were played on the B team and 9th grade team. Earlier, when they came down to our place, we got a chance to see some of these guys, and some good young talent on North too.
And a foul on the floor here. And it's on Nasir El-Amin. Weber and Freitag are out. Both teams emptying the benches. Cody Flowers, number 10, a 5'10 junior, has come into the game. And we are into the running time now. 8 minutes to go. This is Heinbaugh and also Flowers, and everybody on the floor. That's out of bounds. It's going to belong to Minneapolis North. 76-23 the score here.
Oh, young man's a senior coming into the game for St. Clair. Gets a big round of applause.
Michael Thompson comes in for Schroon. Another senior checks out. And that's the tough thing to balance when you're a head coach in a game like this. You know it's your last game of the year, and getting all those guys in, but also keeping the guys in that have got you here that deserve to see out their career.
Well, you need to keep a few. Sometimes it's the balance. You got to make sure you have ball handlers on the floor and enough size maybe to handle the rebounding end of it here.
And a foul will head the other way. I think that one's on Jameer Jackson. And that's going to be a shooting foul, I think, for St. Clair. Will be. Mason Arndt is another guy who's come into the game for St. Clair, number 1. We didn't mention him yet, but he's another senior, 6'2 forward. Heinbaugh will go to the line. And a big cheer as the senior gets on the scoreboard. These guys don't score a lot. They don't play a whole lot. Heinbaugh on the year took only 3 field goals. This is only his 3rd appearance of the season.
Made both free throws there, though. You can always tell his kids someday that he made his 2 points in the state tournament.
Had only 1 point coming into the game. Has 2 here in the state tournament. That's a nice memory to take home, even in a heavy defeat. And a deep 3 here, and that's going to get Marcus Holloman on the board.
The junior, 6'4 junior.
Holloman making his 25th appearance of the year. And North's had a lot of victories like this, so they've been able to get these guys quite a bit of time. Downey and Campbell are the only guys that appeared in fewer than 10 games this season. They're both out there to finish this game out right now. 79-25. Pretty impressive display by this North team. And the scoop shot there by Campbell won't go. Trying to follow it up, and we got a foul on the rebound, and that's going to go against Holloman. And now a chance for Michael Thompson to go to the free throw line. Thompson playing in just his 2nd game of the year. Had a pair of free throws in his only other appearance, made them both.
He's a crowd favorite. When they introduced him at the start of the game, they got a big cheer. Good for him.
And a lot of it, you know, it is a lot of just memories coming to the state tournament. You know, you come in as the heavy underdog. You see Claire fans are all going to head back down to southern Minnesota knowing that they came here and got to compete in this arena or watch a game in this arena.
Well, and I hope that they have a chance to, after the game too, take in the whole spectacle, not just, you know, this game, but get over to the Target Center and get over to see some of the other teams in the hotel and all the things that go on. There's a lot of really cool things that go on, but just besides basketball.
And we saw that with all the players on both teams. Before the game came out, everybody had their phone. They were all filming all around here in Williams Arena and taking in the whole, this kind of aura of this place, which is still one of the better arenas you're going to see in college basketball anywhere.
Yeah, it's a magical place, and I hope they enjoy the moment and don't take it for granted, because it's a lot of teams would love to be in their shoes right now, even though maybe the score doesn't reflect it. It's still pretty neat.
And it's such a hard road to get here. The section playoffs don't get a lot of attention, especially once you get to tournament time, but a lot of them are a grind, and there we see our first player go off the edge of the floor here is Cole Heinbaugh. Luckily fell into a fan, was able to hold him up. You have about 4 feet once you get to the end line before you're falling off the edge of the world here at Williams Arena. And I know there are a lot of Big Ten teams that come in here. They practice that. They want to get comfortable. I don't think the high school teams did.
Well, they're not allowed to practice here, first of all. You can't get into these arenas ahead of time.
Of course, the girls' tournament, at least part of it, but now with the way the University of Minnesota women's basketball team is playing, they may end up in the NIT with some home games. Part of the girls' tournament will be across the street at Mariucci, of course, the hockey rink. They don't use it for basketball a lot, except for some of the girls' tournament every year. That'll be an interesting venue.
In for the Cyclones, number 41, Aiden Holland, and number 55, Alex Eilerson.
That'll be a great time for the girls as well, because of course the most exciting player in the women's basketball world right now plays her games here, Rachel Banham, and they'll have a chance to maybe get over here and see her. She's got the ear of everybody.
Yeah, she's a phenom. I've been so impressed watching her play.
Kobe Bryant's new best friend. As he retires, she enters the scene.
Right. Carley Wagner too has done a great job for the Gopher women. She actually came down, did some camps in Rushford for us, and she's just a remarkable young lady.
It's a very exciting team, and they've had a lot of late wins this year, and Banham and Wagner have been the ones hitting the shots. This is Dylan Schoens, number 15, sophomore guard, and he has a chance to go to the line with about 1.5 minutes remaining. And he gets on the board. Only 9 points here in the second half for St. Clair, but at least some of the guys scoring them are guys that can take this with them for the rest of their lives. And of course, this team, they got a chance to come back. They got a player to build around, and even with losing a lot of seniors, you never know.
Well, these are good motivators too for these young kids, you know, that to get back here. They know they got to work, and they know maybe what kinds of level of skill is involved at the state level.
And it just builds that winning tradition, you know, a team that's never been here. They have a chance to start a tradition. I don't think the people of St. Clair who follow this team and this school are ever going to forget this group. There's a steal by Eli Campbell. An unselfish play as he gives it up to Holloman. Campbell just 1 point in the game. That's an easy one to take yourself, but he gives it up. Holloman ends up at the line as we're into the final 30 seconds here.
Well, we've seen that all day out of the North players. Very unselfish, and one thing they really do well, they finish. They finish baskets.
Holloman gets his own miss. And that's the end of it. 80-27 will be the final, and Minneapolis North just dominated from start to finish in this one.
Yeah, it was very impressive, especially that start of that second half, Charlie. They really came out and were hitting on all cylinders.
Well, that'll do it for this game. Just the first of 4, however, and we'll be back on the air in about a half an hour from now as we get ready for the number 5 seed Red Lake out of Section 8 and Section 5 champion Browerville Eagle Valley. And a game we expect to be a lot closer than this one. The rest of the games today, pretty wide open field. All the coaches in Class A told us that this week. And a reminder that the quarterfinal coverage of Minnesota State boys basketball broadcasts are supported by Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation, treating addiction and transforming lives. Cub in your hometown Cub store. Born and raised in Minnesota, Cub is the hometown team. And by Tria Orthopedic and by Comcast Xfinity. A nice ovation for the St. Clair team right now as they are supported by their fans. They go out of this one 80-27, the final. Minneapolis North with the victory. For now, we'll be back in about a half an hour. For Tom Bix, I'm Charlie Beatty saying so long, and we'll be back on PrepSpotlight.tv.